offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. Just updating something I said at the top of the hour regarding the Brown University shooting and the search for the shooter. So maybe I misheard, but I asked our producers, because I just was sort of listening while I was doing something else, when I said that the Fox News reported that local police didn't know the sex of the person of interest. And a couple of texters suggested that Fox News was talking about a second person that police are interested in interviewing, a person that crossed paths with the person of interest per the surveillance video that police have and that they release. So maybe that's the case. The local police, Providence police, are saying they've gathered both physical and DNA evidence. They describe the person of interest as 5'8" man with a stocky build. Yeah, he's a squatty guy. Not dissimilar, like I said, to the guy whose student profile was scrubbed from the Brown University website, his X account taken down, and so forth. But maybe not the same guy either. I said it doesn't look like the same guy, because this guy seems darker complected based on the close-up pictures that police have released. But he came into contact. Investigators say the individual was in close proximity to the person of interest prior to Saturday's shooting, and they believe that that person could help the investigation move forward. They don't know the sex of, so they have enough to see an interaction, and they have enough to have a close-up on him, but they don't have enough to identify even the sex of the person that he came in close proximity to that they would also like to speak with. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing has been shambolic as far as I'm concerned, beginning with that press conference the other day. So, sorry, I'm just there. That operation in Providence is just not inspiring much confidence. All right. Speaking of local matters, this was a snippet from the graduation ceremony at the Maine Government High School in Hamtramck, Michigan. Michigan, which is one of those communities that is now majority Muslim in terms of its population. I think you'll understand why I'm sharing this momentarily, but here we go.
Muhammad Al-Jawani, Haytham Al-Ghazali, خولة الجهين، آمال الجهين، محمد الجهين، دعاء الحالمي، ياسمين الهنومة، أماني الحسين.
That goes on for another 2 minutes, and it is nothing but Arabic names. I'm not casting any aspersions on people of Arabic extraction or Muslims or Arabic Christians. What we're talking about is what we've been talking about for a long time, which is unchecked, unvetted mass migration. Not individuals. The individual assessments can bring great people of all shapes and sizes and religious persuasions to this country, like we saw with the Bondi Beach terrorist attack. You had two men, father and son, terrorist tandem that were of Pakistani extraction that murdered all those and injured all those people. And yet you had a Muslim of Syrian extraction, an Australian national now, who acted heroically and disarmed, at least temporarily, the father of that father and son tandem. So Not going to play that game, and I'm not afraid to have the conversation to draw these distinctions and to discuss a topic with the nuance that's required. But when you do it in Moss, and you do it from the perspective of open borders, which is what has been done in this country, to at varying paces, depending on the administration, then you create the sorts of problems that we talked about during the Biden administration in small town America, like Springfield, Ohio. Please don't eat the cats. Charleroi, Pennsylvania. And what we've been discussing more recently with the fraud and the welfare dependency of the Somali population in Minnesota. And I play that clip from the high school graduation in Hamtramck because that's going to be the high school graduation in Sandburg High School in Orland Park before too long. And given the behavior of some from the Muslim community in suburban Chicago, that's a topic for discussion, it seems to me. For more on this and other related matters, pleased to be joined again by the former mayor of Orland Park, Keith Pekau. We want to update the litigation he's been involved with since he was defeated for re-election this past spring, and defeated by a guy who says he's a Republican, but is one of those Illinois Republicans, which means leftist, or Quisling, who was carried to victory by the Palestinian or Palestinian American community in Orland Park. There's no other way to describe it. That was the difference maker. Keith, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Just before we get to the specifics of the behavior of this Jim Dodge government in Orland Park, as sort of a cautionary tale for people thinking about their local government, and I don't mean state, I mean local, literal local. We try to talk about all the time: municipal, school boards, townships, counties. That's sort of local. Just a comment, given the backdrop of what we saw at Bondi Beach, what we may be talking about with respect to the murders at Brown University, what we're talking about in places like what was formerly Minneapolis, Hamtramck, Dearborn. If you wanted to comment on the dynamic in the southwest suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's an issue in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I think the mass migration is an issue. When you go from 4% of the population at the beginning of Joe Biden's term to 15% over 4 years, it has an impact on your community when things change that fast. And that's obviously a problem. And when you have a current mayor that, as you pointed out, was elected due to that, and to give you a really good example, you remember that Trump ordered the flags at half-staff when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And the village got blowback for being at half-staff from that community and put out a social media post saying that it was at half-staff because of 9/11. So they just lied to the public and gaslit the public. They don't, again, and they're doing other things like eminent domain, blocking certain businesses from opening, and it appears to be to appease that community. And not even that community, I would say the loud people and the people who were the money behind him is who they're really trying to appease. I don't think it's the individuals at large. I think it's leaders of that group. Just a point of order on this. The Center for Immigration Studies released an analysis of the Biden administration's refugee resettlement program, raising serious concerns about whether more than 233,000 plus refugees admitted were adequately screened. The argument is that the Biden administration prioritized speed over security, redesigning overseas processing to allow concurrent steps taken rather than sequential ones, cutting processing times from years to weeks or months. NGO referrals were expanded, creating potential for fraud.
A GAO report in 2017 found 64% of trip reports identified major concerns with case preparations, including staff fraud. And it goes on from there, just detailing the potential vulnerabilities or slipshoddy processes in place for proper vetting. And so that macro approach has micro consequences in communities around the country, and that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. It's swept someone into office that's been abusing his office since he's been there.
And let's get to that now, the abuses of the office. So I think I lost count of the number of complaints that were filed against you and funded by the taxpayers. I mean, right, this is the one man standing against the government type of story, despite the fact that you were a two-term mayor. And so the complaints, there was action taken this week where 6 of 7 complaints that were filed against you by the Village of Orland Park were dismissed. So just sort of update us on the case, the nature of these complaints filed against you, and what the dispensation was by the court.
So there were 2 counts in their lawsuit against me, and there were 7 claims inside those counts, or 7 things of relief they wanted. 6 of those were stricken by the court. Only 1 remained. The village's response, when I pointed that out, the village's response was that I was lying and that it didn't damage their case. Yet, yesterday, they amended their complaint, which is, means they threw out their first complaint, and they're re-complaining the whole thing. Now there's, I think, all the original 7 plus like 7 more claims now that they're going after. And, basically it's a do-over. And it will likely be granted, and they almost always are, at the Cook County Court on Monday. And the bottom line is they want me silent. They don't want me to speak. They initially wanted all of my social media taken down. Then they've since retrenched from that, and their new complaint says, this isn't about First Amendment, yet the first thing they want is for the court to basically not allow me to speak about issues in Orland Park. And this should chill everybody, because it's not just me they're telling to shut up. They're saying to every existing board member, to everyone who wants to run, to every staff member, that if you speak out, we will crush you. We will use government resources to crush you. And they have spent several $100,000 on this, as have I. And I don't think anybody wants that in their life. But I am not going to back down. I've fought for your rights when I was in the military, and taking away my First Amendment right is unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, so you've spent a couple $100,000 of your own money while they're spending, they have, a blank check because it's other people's money. And it's all surrounding, you're not allowed to criticize the government. I mean, it's remarkable that these complaints filed against you have even persisted as long as they have.
Yeah, they couch it in, I have documents, I have information, and yeah, of course I have copies of documents. I did a lot of work when I was mayor, right? But they've yet to identify what those documents are, right? And they've implied that I've released documents. I have not released anything. This all started because I told people that they should FOIA specific documents, and I gave them a list of documents they should FOIA. And that's what started this. So the real question is, what is the village hiding? What don't they want?
Why can't you make recommendations of what people should FOIA? I mean, what do they have? Are these classified documents with national security implications? What are we talking about?
If you went to the court case, you surely would think so. But their own attorney said to me on the stand and asked me, he said, well, FOIA is there to protect people's reputations. No, FOIA is not there.
Protect people's reputations? What does that mean?
If they've done something wrong and it's in the FOIA, then that's why we have a Public Records Act, so people can actually check on it.
FOIA is a lawyer from Ansel Glink said the FOIA is there to protect people's reputations?
He absolutely said that when I was on the stand. That was his implied question. I said, absolutely not. In fact, it's the opposite.
God, boy, if anybody listening has Ansel Glink as their a lawyer from Ansel Glink, or Ansel Glink as our corp counsel as a town attorney, that's the position you're taking? That's what the Freedom of Information Act, to be able to get documents from your government that are FOIA-able, so that you get transparency from your government. If they're not forthcoming and proactive, you can at least get it from a reactive government, so that there's the ability to examine what's happening with your government that you finance. And it's about protecting people's reputations. What the good grief. I mean, but this is why the Orland Park thing is so interesting, because number one, it's rare that you have somebody that's willing to go to the mat, particularly after they're out of office, like you're doing, and spending your own money and serious sums of it in the process. And two, to have, what normally you get a government that behaves this way, well, they just use their power. They behave the way that a officious commissar would. They use their power to just crush dissent, and nobody says anything about it because they don't want to be the next one up. So you never hear about it. So you never appreciate that this is happening all over the place. And that's why this story is so important to me. And the example that you're providing is laudatory, frankly.
Well, thanks. And I'm just pointing out, all I've been pointing out is all the abuses. I mean, Jim Dodge, the patronage hires. He hires his business partner and campaign manager into a non-budget position for $100,000 a year. A new position, mayor's outreach coordinator. He's rewarded campaign workers with communications contracts, photography contracts. The village manager got his job back for helping undermine the government while I was there, and then help him get elected. He has added 22 full-time positions and 28 part-time positions in 7 months. That's almost 10% additional employees. The nepotism, he forced out our dog handler. He forced him to resign. Gave his nephew, who's on the police force, the new dog.
Well, so, I mean, all that stuff is like the usual patronage and self-dealing that you have in government everywhere. But the point is to say, like, if you talk about those things, or you object to them, or you want a FOIA to get information about people that are on the public payroll, that is somehow, actionable, that you should be silenced. We only accept compliments in the village of Orland Park. It's like the city of Chicago Department of Transportation. We don't accept complaints here. We just accept compliments.
Absolutely. They're sending the message that we will destroy you. They're raising property tax $500,000 this year, the property tax levy. Under my administration, over 8 years, the property tax levy went down. They're using, basically, that property tax levy is funding this lawsuit.
And by the way, meanwhile, just speaking of local government, we talked about it last week, at the high school there, Carl Sandburg, Turning Point USA, trying to stand up a Turning Point USA chapter, and they're receiving all sorts of flack, and more than flack, hate, and just unseemly ad hominem from people who oppose Turning Point USA and so on and so forth, even though they have all these sort of other identitarian clubs at the school. And, this is all part and parcel of the same dynamic here. You have people that have a totalitarian bent across the political spectrum and across the sort of religious and racial spectrum, too, there. You got a lot of people that want to shut up dissent in Orland Park, both honkies and non-honkies.
Well, since that happened at Carl Sandburg, the village of Orland Park has put out at least 2, maybe 3 press releases and comments about me and attacking me, but they can't say one thing, not one thing, about the threats that have happened at Carl Sandburg. And as a mayor, it's a really simple comment on the board for. We are aware of the threats. They are unacceptable. We are investigating them, and we will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. That's all you have to say. It has not been said. It has not been said because Jim Dodge is a wholly owned subsidiary of that group.
That's the choice Orland Park made. Keith Pekau, former mayor of Orland Park, thanks again for joining us. Keep the fight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
And he joins us on the Turnkey.pro text line. It is, it's the witching hour. It's now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND, Chicago.
Touting year one of term two. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it.
President Trump blamed Biden-era policies failing America in a primetime White House address.
But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country.
The president also says he's bringing prices that had surged down.
Wages are going up much faster than inflation. How big is that?
Later this hour, we'll get an inflation update expected